Formosan Vampire by Amadeus Rockefeller. Copyright 2023 by Chen Mingyu Publishing. Chapter 1. Death Row Diary. Liudao Prison, Taiwan, 2022. My name is Seth Ardeline, an alias I have been using for a very long time and has no real bearing on my true identity or origins. But what is true is that most people believe I am a vampire. That's right. One of those creatures that lurch from beyond the grave, dripping with death and decay, searching for the lifeblood of mortals to fuel a ghoulish existence. A creature born out of superstitious cultures that scares the hell out of people. A frightening image that can be a powerful tool that serves a grand purpose for those like me, held in such dangerous accommodations. I am a death row inmate, biding my time for salvation, alongside other murderous souls, even though a vampire should not reveal its identity, as there would be inevitable acts of murderous inquisitions by radicals. I don't mind being considered a vampire in my current environment. Most of the vicious people in here with me have deep-rooted cultural beliefs and superstitions, so they tread warily at a distance around me and leave me be. Although some have tried to kill me, let there be no doubt about that. The first and only attempt on my life, during these past 14 years in confinement, happened about 13.5 years ago, in 2009, during dinner in a prison mess hall. As I sat alone at my regular table, I slowly ate my taunting meal of rice and vegetables, when I heard a particular gang member's voice, loud and clear, showing all present that he had no fear. I am a hulking 8'2", with 318 pounds of robust muscular power. He was 5'4", and probably about 125 pounds. But he possessed an impressive set of broad shoulders and the lean muscles of a boxer. A threat to some, but a bug on the floor to me. Yet, for some absurd reason, he must have thought I was the ideal prey. Oh, what a delusional man! He came suddenly from behind, leaped off the floor to smash me over the head with a steel food tray, and at the same time did some kind of taekwondo kick to knock me onto the floor. I lay on the floor for a moment as he circled and pulled out a shank. A knife-like handmade concealable weapon, in this case, the sharpened end of a toothbrush. As he placed a foot on my stomach and drove that plastic blade several times into my chest, with a sound like the stabbing of wet sand, I grabbed his long hair and pulled his head toward my mouth, biting down on his forehead like a ripe apple. The crunching and the howling of pain that echoed through the mess hall was delightful. As he cowered away, clutching the meaty gash across his bleeding forehead, I rose to my feet, patting the puncture wounds across my stomach. I grabbed a hand full of rice from a nearby inmate's food tray and plugged those holes in my chest which oozed dark blood. Then I composed myself, picked up the steel tray he used on me, and salami sliced through the back of his neck. I hacked through his rubbery flesh and severed his spinal cord at about the 5th vertebrae. His body dropped to the floor like a large sack of potatoes, and his head bounced and then rolled unevenly across the floor as if it were an overripe melon. I calmly walked over to a table and picked up a dessert spoon and fork, then grabbed his head. I stood there surrounded by speechless, horrified inmates and correctional officers as I prized open his cracked skull like a boiled egg, and then swirled, scooped out, slurped up, and devoured noodle-like greyish brain matter like spaghetti bolognese. No one ever screwed with me. Again. However, I did spend 6 months in solitary confinement while being handed another murder sentence. That was fine with me. 6 months is nothing compared to 6 centuries. If there is one thing that I am good at, is doing time. Not because I want to, but because I have to. There is no choice for me. The extra murder sentence was laughable. What would they do? Execute me twice? If they knew the number of people I have slain over the years, they would probably give me a couple of 100 years in the electric chair. Thank goodness they don't have that nasty contraption here, or I'd end up nice and crispy. But my time here now is finally up. Tomorrow is going to be a victorious day. I have been yearning for this day for years. 14 years. I am the longest-serving death row inmate here, due to a series of antagonizing technical delays and stays of execution because of political and public pressure. People who believe the death penalty is wrong. Taiwan is one of a tiny number of countries in the world that retains the death penalty. The last execution was in 2020, and there are still 39 prisoners currently on death row as I sit here writing my journal. But tomorrow night there will be another. Me, taking that number down to 38. At 8 o'clock tomorrow night I will be executed by a firing squad. Fantastic. Yes, that's right, I want to die. Not because I don't want to live, but because I can't live. I can't bear the loneliness of being without them, my only true loves in this world, my wife and my daughter. Some might ask why I don't commit suicide and get my wish so I can be with them. Well, it wouldn't work, as I cannot kill myself. My nature doesn't allow me to. However, hypothetically, if I attempted to hang myself in my cell, provided I could acquire the rope or strong enough sheeting, I would still need a fixture of some type. The current cell is unusual, as the walls are large blocks of sandstone, and the floor and ceiling are thick slabs of reinforced concrete. My cell door is a thick steel bank vault-like door. This place is more like a World War II underground bunker than a prison cell. Overkill, if you ask me, but some genius in the correctional system was convinced by my enemies that it was a pretty good idea and made them all feel safe from my reach. Well, for securing your average homicidal maniac, this might be effective, but for me it doesn't matter. I am not a murderous lunatic. I have complete control over my mind and my environment. Unknown to the jailers, I can still come and go as I please. I have been doing so since my incarceration at this facility. There are cunning ways for an adaptive creature like me to circumvent their system, as will be discovered. Anyway, I digress. Even if I could hang myself somehow, the results would be futile. I would just wake with bruising around my neck and most likely hit my head on the inside of the steel sarcophagus-like body tray within the prison mortuary freezer, if they could find one big enough. I'm not very fond of the cold, particularly when presented as a naked slab of meat. Then, after removing me from the morgue, I would be quickly covered by the superstitious with layers of garlic flowers to confine my soul, and then dispatched to the crematorium. With Taiwan being dominantly a Buddhist country, they burn the dead. Cremation is not an option, as a body reduced to those final bone fragments and dirty grey ash cannot be recovered under any circumstance. It is a complete death. So I must do all I can to avoid the flames of oblivion. I must be laid to rest, in organic form. Only then can I reconstitute and rise again. So that's why I must be executed by a firing squad. It is the only way to achieve my goal. The bullets to the heart will be of no consequence. But the vision of my demise must be seen to be believed, so there is no temptation by some to think otherwise, particularly those hiding within Taiwan's old guard who know what I am. To compel this belief of my ultimate demise, I will bring in another to help accommodate my termination. A lawyer, or at the very least a paralegal. Then have them arrange a Christian burial service at a particular church that stands where my true love and kin will be waiting for me. People in the media have commented over the years with the question that if I was a vampire, then why don't I simply turn into a bat and fly away? Because I can't. That is complete nonsense. Vampires cannot turn into bats. That would require an extremely complex and slow process, like a tadpole turning into a frog. A level of quantum tunneling that disassembles and reconstructs one organism into another. It is scientific mastery that only the amphibians possess, but it takes time. Not just a flick of the wrist and a puff of smoke. It's ridiculous. I am a creature born of science, not superstition and fantasy. But there are other things that some of my kind can do, depending upon what was in the DNA gifted to us. We can do something similar to the amphibians, which also requires quantum tunneling, but again will not result in a quick or drastic transformation. It does, however, allow us flight, but takes a while to develop and master. Anyway, flight cannot help to attain my goal. The church and tomb where my loves await are laced with trickery and damnation. I may even spontaneously combust if I appear there at the wrong time, or be impaled by vampire hunters and their diabolical traps. And I speak from experience, as you will learn as I recount my story. No, I have to escape from this prison to break into a tomb via the safety of a coffin. Once I am in that coffin, I shall be able to set them free. And then, as they rise again, we shall bring terror to those who brought terror to us. It will be a ferocious act of revenge against all those who plotted, hunted, and murdered my family, and forced me to take horrific measures that placed me in my current predicament. Our revenge on them, and all others who dare stand in our way, will be a tsunami of bloodshed and death like no other. So, that's why I'm here on death row. I need to be killed correctly, to get into a coffin and placed cunningly in a church. As insane as that sounds, it's the only way. And the only way for me to enact that plan was via the death of another, be arrested, suffer the humiliation and agony of time, and wait for this moment. Soon I will be with those I love, and then we will be free to reign in darkness and death, as we have done for centuries before. I can now hear people talking as they enter the main cell block corridor above me. The voices, mute to most, are drifting down through the air ducts into my basement cell. Yes, they have me housed in a solitary cell below ground. Directly above me are the main inmate cells. There is only one cell in the basement level, formerly used by the Japanese in World War II to keep American prisoners of war, then by the Chinese Kuomintang when they invaded and took control and locked up Taiwanese political prisoners. Then it was forgotten about and fell into a state of decay until it was converted in the late 2000s into a special holding cell for my incarceration. I felt so privileged that they would make special accommodations for me and, as you will learn, it was a necessity. After all, I am viewed as a most murderous creature, possibly the worst that has walked this earth. Yes, I can hear that there is a visitor above. I can tell by the footsteps. Footfalls that do not belong to any guard or any other person I know of within this prison. I have an excellent memory of such things you see, and my hearing is very sensitive. Sometimes too sensitive. The scurry of roaches annoys the hell out of me, and the occasional rat sounds like an elephant. Those sounds are magnified because of the prison being isolated on a small volcanic island called Liudao, or Green Island, on the southeast coast of Taiwan. The plain building is surrounded by lush green forested hills and dotted with saltwater, hot springs. Formosan deer graze undisturbed in this beautiful location. The main prison entrance faces the north, looking out across the ocean. It is deathly quiet at night and serene during the day. I don't mind that at all. The Department of Corrections placed me here because no other prison on the Taiwanese mainland wanted to accommodate me. Trying to locate a suitable prison was highly problematic. Inmates within the receiving prison somehow got word of my impending arrival, which created rioting. The wardens didn't want that kind of trouble and refused to accept my transfer. This, of course, resulted from fearful stories that spread within the Taiwan prison system about the gang boss I beheaded and devoured during my early incarceration. So finally they renovated a former basement in the most isolated prison they could find. This one, on Green Island. I believe they chose this one as they perceived me as an enemy of the state. This prison had been used to lock up, torture, and dispose of many political prisoners during the island's dark past of one-party rule, with one of the longest impositions of martial law by a regime anywhere in the world. So I was proud to be sent here, an enemy of the former state. But I am the only one here like that now, as circumstances have changed and a liberal democracy has flourished. It is the old guard that keeps me here, and new democratic institutions attempting to set me free. Yet, if they knew the truth, None of them would want me free. Nevertheless, they will all soon learn of my power and beg for mercy. The rest of the inmates here are just old pathetic men, locked up for minor felonies. Some of the old-timers here know what I am. Others that come and go do not know that the Formosan Vampire is in their company. However, I mean them no harm. They are no threat to me or my plans. Now I just want solitude with no interruptions, so I can have my execution. I will not be executed on this island, though. I will be transported back to the southern city of Kaohsiung on the Taiwanese mainland by a prison plane. The flight is less than 45 minutes. On arriving there, I will be transported to Kaohsiung's maximum security prison. At 8 p.m., I shall be shot by a firing squad in the heart. First, a shroud will be placed over my head. 10 men will surround me in a semicircle. 8 of those men will have weapons with blanks. 2 will have fatal rounds. My executioners will not know who has the lethal shot. It is some kind of method created to prevent them from feeling the emotional burden. Pathetic. However, it is difficult to kill a man. When you do, you remember their faces forever. They can haunt you in your dreams, almost impossible to erase. I speak from experience, for I have taken countless lives. Much more than the ones I have been found guilty of snuffing out. Regardless, I expect all of them to hit their mark and do their damn job. We shall soon see.